Chapter 22. The Defense of the Capital. As the battle intensified in the capital, inside Kami's lookout, Dende and Mr. Popo hurriedly searched the lower chambers, still covered in dust from the damage of the previous combat. Where are they? Murmured Dende, looking at the partially collapsed altar. This is where we left them, replied Popo, moving a block of stone aside. The fight between Ub and Teku. Dende knelt, feeling among the debris. Part of the floor collapsed. A golden sphere rolled out from the rubble and stopped at his feet. Here's one. Then the others must be close, Popo smiled, brushing the dust off his shoulder. Dende raised his gaze, sensing the violence of the battle in the distance. Hold on just a little longer. I promise I'll bring them back. Explosions, screams, and key blasts burst throughout West City. The roar of battle replaced the typical bustle of the city. Entire streets rumbled from energy clashes and alarms resonated between cracked buildings. Citizens looked to the sky with terror, watching as shockwaves lit up the clouds like distant lightning. Gohan raised his voice. Listen, everyone. Eldran is up there watching. As long as he doesn't intervene, we have a chance. Our priority is leading this battle away from the city and protecting the people. The warning rang out just as new auras approached the capital. From different corners of the planet, other defenders had felt the dark wave and did not hesitate to act. Tien Shinhan and Chao Tzu descended from high in the clouds with hardened expressions. Without wasting a moment, they unleashed their power against a squad that was razing buildings, deflecting the attack that would have reduced a group of defenseless civilians to ashes. Get back! Tien roared, unleashing a ki blast that scattered several enemies. Chao Tzu launched himself against another soldier, but was surprised by a third who appeared at his back. Chao Tzu! Warned Tien, too far away to intercept. Suddenly, a blur crossed the street. The shadows of the buildings cast a labyrinth of concrete and broken glass, where Yamcha streaked in like lightning and floored the attacker with a kick before he reached his friend. Just in the nick of time, Yamcha shouted, emerging from the dust with a cocky grin. You didn't think you were gonna save the world without me, did you? He planted himself beside them, shoulder to shoulder with Tien and Chao Tzu. Thanks, Yamcha, replied Chao Tzu, catching his breath. The little fighter got back into a fighting stance, while the trio prepared to face the next group of enemies. But the Dark Warriors moved as if they shared a single mind, flanking and forcing the warriors to divide. Tien noticed it immediately. They're coordinating! Don't let them surround you! An instant later, a familiar flash streaked across the sky. Krillin arrived in the city, accompanied by Android 18. The veteran warrior observed the magnitude of the threat, gulping. This is dangerous, he admitted, worried. Beside him, 18 descended gracefully. If a single one of these scumbags gets anywhere near Marin, there'll be nothing but dust, she said coldly. Krillin looked at her out of the corner of his eye, knowing she wasn't exaggerating. Eldran's warriors regrouped for an instant, surprised to see that so many defenders had shown up. Krillin took advantage of the moment to address Piccolo. Thank goodness you guys are here. What the hell is going on? Listen up, shouted Piccolo. They're innocent. A sorcerer named Eldran is controlling them. Don't kill them, just knock them out. At that point, Gohan approached him. Piccolo, doesn't it seem strange that Dende hasn't summoned Shenron yet? I've thought that too, replied the Namekian, looking at the sky. The Dragon Balls were at the lookout. They should have done it by now. Gohan tensed his posture, worried. Then something isn't right up there. The thunder of battle once again claimed everything, and the fate of West City remained in the hands of the Z fighters, while drones and news cameras broadcast the events live from various points of the city. Explosions continued to shake the streets, while Goten and Trunks already transformed into Super Saiyan 2, moved at full speed between the buildings. Some of the Dark Captains, more powerful than the rest, used Arcane Suppression, forcing the two Saiyans to adapt and go all out. "They're stronger than they look," grunted Trunks, dodging a punch that shattered the ground beneath his feet. "Then we'll have to get serious," replied Goten, launching a wave of energy that swept away 3 adversaries in a single impact. But before Goten could advance, Mr. Boo slammed into the ground like a living bomb, crushing the enemies under his weight. Despite the constant onslaughts, Mr. Boo remained unharmed. His colossal strength and almost unlimited stamina made him a living wall. Every attack was returned with a deep laugh and a devastating counterattack. Goten raised an eyebrow, saying nothing, but impressed. "With him here, things will be easier," said Trunks, regaining his concentration. "What if we use fusion now?" asked Goten, with an impatient spark in his eyes upon seeing Mr. Boo act. Trunks shook his head, serious. "No. If we use it now, we'll have to wait a long time to repeat it. Let's save it for when things get really complicated." Krillin, Tien, Chaozu, and Yamcha, although more limited, fought their way through on other fronts, containing the lower-level troops, forming a first line of defense to protect the civilian population. Although outnumbered, their determination was unbreakable, and every blow showed their valor on the battlefield, proving that even without the colossal strength of other warriors, they remained indispensable pieces in the defense of Earth. Amidst the clamor, 2 small figures stood out. Pan and Bulla, transformed into Super Saiyans, made their way with bravery against warriors double their size. Their blows, although less devastating than those of the main combatants, were swift and accurate, and together they managed to keep several enemies at bay at the same time. A few meters away, Goten and Trunks held their own front. "Look at Trunks!" exclaimed Pan, dazzled. Bulla arched her eyebrows. "And Goten isn't falling behind either." The boys glanced over, their expressions hardening with determination. A spark of friendly rivalry shone between them. "Now you'll see what Earth Saiyans can really do," proclaimed Goten, with a daring smile. Their auras exploded in unison, and they launched themselves forward. But a stray ki blast from another front cut through the air at full speed. Trunks moved aside to dodge it, and unintentionally crashed straight into Goten, headbutting him right in the groin. "Ah, Trunks, watch it!" blurted Goten, doubling over in pain. "It wasn't my fault! A blast was coming straight for me!" replied Trunks, trying to see where the blast had come from. Bulla burst into laughter. "Some team!" Pan sighed, half amused and half exasperated. "At least they're still in one piece." The two looked at each other for an instant, snorted in unison, and with an explosion of ki, returned to the attack. Even Supreme Kai and Kibito, after witnessing the magnitude of the threat from Kami's lookout, decided not to stay behind. A flash transported them directly to the sky above the battle. "We can't just stand by and watch," exclaimed Supreme Kai, while blocking a blast with a movement of his hands. Kibito, at his side, acted without delay, creating a barrier that deflected another onslaught. Together, they began to wield their powers to counter and protect the civilians from the attacks of Eldran's soldiers. Meanwhile, Oob and Gohan fought side by side in the heart of the city. The strongest soldiers surrounded them, applying Arcane Suppression. Their power levels plummeted, and they felt the weight of the technique. "Gohan, these guys, they're draining us," warned Oob, his jaw clenched. Gohan tensed the muscles of his arms, with his aura tainted by blue flashes, and smiled seriously. "It doesn't matter, even if they reduce our power. We weren't planning on going all out against them anyway." Oob responded with a short roar, and together they shot forward like lightning. The closest soldiers hesitated as they felt the pressure of their auras, so overwhelming that it shattered the windows of nearby buildings. How can they have so much power?" gasped one, backing away. Gohan charged head-on. He blocked a blow with his forearm and responded with a knee strike that floored the first soldier. The second tried to grab him from behind, but Gohan turned sharply, grabbed him by the arm, and slammed him into the pavement with such force that it opened a crater. Oob, swift, dodged a blast of ki and appeared in front of another soldier with a direct hit to the stomach that left him breathless. The last one tried to take advantage of the opening, but Oob spun with a kick to the face that slammed him against the ground. In a matter of seconds, the soldiers lay unconscious. Oob regained his stance, but then he noticed it. Their black auras cracked and, upon dissipating, curled into filaments that ascended to the sky like dark smoke, seeking an invisible void. "So this is how they free themselves from control," he murmured, with a tense expression. Several streets away from them, Yamcha knocked down a lesser soldier with a punch. As expected, Gohan hasn't skipped a beat. Krillin nodded with a tense expression. Against those two, it was never going to be a fair fight for these poor guys. Then Pan dashed out after defeating several soldiers, with her eyes shining with pride. "You bet. It doesn't matter if they use dirty tricks against my dad. He has plenty of strength to beat them." She clenched her fists tightly, looking toward the sky. "And Oob's not gonna let him beat him either." The conviction in her voice made the heavy air of the city seem lighter for a moment. On the horizon, the sun's rays pierced the cloud of smoke, reflecting off the domes of the skyscrapers. The battle still roared, but for the first time, the capital was holding.